we are back with Luisa Nova, director of Breakland. Luisa, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It is really my pleasure to have you. Would you like to introduce yourself or the film Breakland we'll be talking about prior to starting?
Sure. I'm from Brazil and I am in Brazil right now, in vacation for the end of the year.
Yes.
I am a director and I directed many short films, most of them dramas about inner life of women and the struggles we go through. But then I decided that I really wanted to direct comedy. And so Breakland is my first comedy project. And after that, I directed a second comedy project. So hopefully there will be more of that in the future. Breakland was created by my friend and collaborator, James Hughes, and it's about the behind the scenes of a theme park and the workers while they are in the break room between their working hours.
Yeah. Thank you for that setup. So this is your kind of breakout comedic film, and it is definitely a very I guess poignant piece about, I would think, consumer culture or modern society in America, and I'm sure abroad as well. You get the storyline of a young photographer. He's answering an ad. It's his first day of work. He's like ready to be a real photographer. There's some creative kind of artistry in that. And he's going out and he's shooting very commercial pictures that have to be marketable, and the wind is taken out of his sails and he's just really feeling awful. And so the question is when you were approached by your friend John to, hey, let's take this on, what was the inspiration in you? What excited you? Um, and how did that come from your life and reflect into the movie?
Yeah, James had
Oh, I'm
many ideas.
sorry.
That's okay. James, John, they're very common names in English. He had this idea, and I don't know why. I immediately was like, I really like that. Just from the point I would watch it. I love workplace comedies, all of them. Been watching them all the time, and I think the biggest inspiration for this because was more contemporary at the time, a superstore. So it's all about these ordinary people working like corporate America, and James has always said that what he liked most about peeking behind the curtain of a theme park is because as filmmakers, we work kind of also in art, entertainment, but business, and how those two conflate. So it's just very interesting how people that have aspirations and dreams, that like a lot of people that work in theme parks are actually actors, right? That do that for a paycheck, but they have bigger aspirations. And how do you go about your day and not let those dreams die and not become cynical? And also, like, we spend, if you're in the film industry, maybe 90% of your time at work because we work such long hours and just everything is just so unpredictable that you do like meet friends and family at work, right? So work becomes your family. So that's another thing we like about this type of sitcoms and comedies. It's just how everybody is there for each other, more sometimes than your own family. So what I liked about the story was all of that. And then I workshopped like with him. It's completely his idea, but he was very interesting in my input and what did I think about the characters and development. So the main character is this idealistic guy, more like we are, that he's just very naive and just coming to this world fresh out of college and doesn't know how he can survive such a boss, right? Because his boss is really uh, making quotas and all of that stuff. That's not what he's interested in. And then all the friends he meets along the ways, we just like all the colorful characters we could put in, all the character actors, and then the other photographers. And if we had done more episodes, because it is a pilot, few other more episodes. We have so many other. It's like customer service, the rides. You know, those teenagers that work the rides that don't like they're still in high school and
Fair.
what
Yeah.
that's like. So I'm just interested in comedy as, just a way to talk about life that's a little more palatable and more relatable. So, but yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
it.
No, that's great. I mean, I totally get like, comedy's so fun because it's like, instead of laughing, you could laugh or you could cry. And so, let's make it funny and let's make it a comedy and let's laugh at all the things that, you know, one of the lines in the movie that came up a couple of times and it was a very poignant line, it was the curse of expectations. And so, here we are with these naive expectations, seeking this reality that we want. But the reality that is there is quite different. And then the reality that the people at the theme park are putting on for paying customers has to be this way. So there's all these like little layers of reality and I guess with the curse of expectations and that being a theme certainly. What, how do you reflect on this idea of reality and the message that's going on with these different layers of paying customers get served up one reality, the employees are in another reality?
Yeah, I think that's everywhere. A theme park, it's a interesting world to dive into that because it is so separate. But I think anywhere if you go into a store, you'd never know what they're performing a service for you. It's literally the service business, right? A waiter at a restaurant. It's whatever is behind, it's not the same that's in front. I think I don't have an answer of like how it should be. But I definitely, as I grew older, work sometimes have to work with other people and provide them a service. You just have to treat everybody with respect. So when I'm getting a service, I never think that first that it's my right to be doing so just because I'm paying, or that they I always think you have to see the human behind it. Not saying that you shouldn't provide a good service, but there's always many factors. And curse of expectations, even as I watch a movie, I completely, if I have an expectation, the chances of me being disappointed are gonna be huge. So I just like try to go without any expectations. And in life, I think it's the same thing. Not that you shouldn't aspire to a goal, you should have goals and dreams, but if you don't get them, you are crushed. That is a very bad way to live. I came to the conclusion, so I try very hard to. Nothing should affect me as much as a death or something that's really tragic. Like if it's just a day-to-day thing that happens to everybody's like I'm moving on. It's not tragic.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your questions.
It does. I mean, it does. I think we're talking about the same thing. And there's these expectations that we have as coming of age about our lives and how we're going to live them. And I think artists, myself included, often have these grand expectations. We want to feel successful, and successful we compare it to any other job. Oh, well, he's a doctor. He's working at a hospital. It's a great hospital. There are people coming every day. He's a professional doctor. Um, and in arts, it doesn't necessarily work that way. There's not, that kind of business model for it. And
Yeah.
so there's a very, 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 very small percentage of very talented and very lucky people that get to do that for a living at
Yeah.
in a sustainable way. And so it's very easy to feel,
Like a failure.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's very easy to feel. Yeah, go on.
Um, I think in the entertainment industry is funny because where I come from, I don't know, not many people work on this, so they have a different view of like my life than I do. It's always the grass is greener. Um, People sometimes think my life is glamorous or anything, and it couldn't be further from the truth. And also, you compare yourself to other people that are your age, and sometimes they're doing a little better, and you think like, why am I not there? But then when you talk to these people, nobody has the same path. Nobody. It's so different that that's another thing I'm working really hard to stop is comparing myself to others because you are not them, they're not you. There's somebody else that's thinking about you the same way you're thinking about other people. Like they think you're more successful than them when you don't think so. So it's hard to not compare, but you just have to try because it's not fair. It's not the same. Just because they're the same age does not mean you should be in the same place. Ava DuVernay, directed her first feature when she was much older. Everybody comes from a different path. I hear people that were teachers first, people that worked something completely unrelated. Some people come from like science and then become directors. So who knows, you know? Just because you were in this path from the beginning also doesn't mean you're not going to get there. It's just different. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And it's a growing process. And and it's so that's why that's such a wonderful thing. The curse of expectations, I mean, really comes back to, these holy texts like the Buddha. There's a great line that goes like something like this: the great way is easy for those who have no preferences. So, life's great if you're not comparing this and that and this and that and wondering, I want that, I want this. So, with that, it's kind of like goes back to this expectations. Well, how do we identify ourselves? How do we think of our own identity? And here again, we go back to the break land because it's so poignant. Like here we are, we're in our little costumes. Are we the costume character? Well, we are for this point of time when we're doing that. Are we this character? But who are we? And that explores, it begins to explore. The pilot sets that up for exploration. And so I think all of us as humans are seeking this safety and seeking comfort in our own skin. And so how do we find that in our bodies through the experience of survival?
yeah. I mean, you have to have a job. There's no way around it. And people say if you do something you love, you don't work a day in your life. And that's not true. It's still I think it's still hard work,
Yeah, yeah.
but it does. I guess the main word is purpose. Every time I wake up with purpose, like saying, oh, the day is not going to be a waste of my time, a waste of energy, it's a good day.
Yeah.
So sometimes your job is not your hobby, your job, it's not what you love to do. So you do have to go and find something that makes it worthwhile. And it could be the people you work with, it could be something very specific in your job. Like I love making movies. So I do like going to work, but it doesn't mean it's easy, but it does make a purpose. Sometimes people think it's silly, like you're not like curing cancer, you're making a movie. But when I get home, the first thing I want to do is watch something that makes me feel something. So when you're making a movie, if that's your going live to make something that somebody else is going to watch and have the same reaction, you feel there's a purpose to what you're doing. So I think curse of expectations and purpose are two good words.
I think they're two good words too. I think they're great. I think you nailed it. I think purpose is that direction that makes us feel like we are living in integrity with our values and our inner state. And and like you said, that purpose can be very different. Could be, I just want to make somebody smile. I'm just, I'm working at a shoe store, I'm working over the counter, whatever, it doesn't matter. If I can bring light to another individual, I'm done. Check. I'm as good as, anybody else. So it's a wonderful thing to explore, and it's a wonderful thing to share through a fun, comedic exploration like Breakland. Last question. Um, how have you personally been changed since making Breakland?
Breakland. Breakland was a great experience. I hadn't directed in 3 years when I made it, and we also crowdfunded, so that was a whole other learning curve that I had to, like not be
Yeah.
afraid to do it because it's not fun, it's not easy. You're like asking people for money, but then you find out the people that really believe in you and in the project. So, but when we actually were on set, it was so fun. It was like I I was really proud of my actors. I think I cast them really well. And I'm proud of that as well, because there's a whole pre-production process before you even go to shooting. And I spend a lot of time trying to find right location, right actors, right everything. But on set, it was so fun. It was like nonstop laughing. Everybody was in the groove. I really had a great time. And I just hope all my sets forward are like that, even if it's a drama, like people that want to be there, people that understand the story and your vision, and just amazing actors, because just watching them, do their thing, especially if it's comedy, I'm just always laughing behind the monitor. So, and I do want to direct more things that I don't write. So this was my first, and I hope that I continue to do that because I don't particularly enjoy writing. So,
Well, you
so
pulled it off. It was a very sophisticated production,
thank
and I enjoyed watching it, and I really enjoyed speaking to you. You and James Hughes, the writer, and you directed it. And you know, so having done that, because it was a pretty big production, there's quite a lot of production value. I'm sure there was a lot of technically, challenging things that you guys had to do. Um, you know, to now that you have a comedy or two now under your belt, I guess how do you feel, you know, having done that, as we talk about maybe within the context of purpose or your own personal development?
I'm still trying to figure that out. Maybe
Yeah,
that's a
that's
new
awesome.
resolution. Yeah, I think this year I really need to hone in because I think I'm interested in both. Um, but when people ask like what's your brand, I'm like, oh, can I have two now?
Right.
Because it just happened that the two comedies I direct are also male protagonists when all of my dramas are female protagonists. Because if I'm writing, it just comes from my own experiences. So I write women characters and women stories. But it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy also, tackling male characters. So I'm trying to figure that out, trying to hone in what is it I like about comedy. I just I like how relatable they are. That's for sure. But I think I need to get deeper into that because I know people are gonna ask me that a lot because I want to direct more comedy. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Well, it's interesting when you talk about how the people ask you, what's your brand, and that question, to me, I'd be like, yeah. Um, but I think I know what they mean when they're saying that, and I think as you develop your art and you produce more and more art, you get a sense of, oh, I have this. This is I kind of am doing this over and over again. It's these different stories, but I have this tendency of so voice, right? It's kind
Yeah.
of more traditionally called your
Let's
voice.
I don't want to say underdog because that's also a cliche, but I think all of my characters definitely have some type of insecurity, some type of not fitting in. I see it as a true line.
Mm.
Sometimes the topics are a little heavier, sometimes they're not, but I think that's a through line, no matter if it's comedy or drama.
Mhm. Well, that's interesting. So that, in relation to Breakland is certainly something that the main character faces and then walks away from at the end of the movie feeling more reassured, and that reassurance comes from people. that human connection. And so it's all, definitely a very important thing to keep reiterating to ourselves, that human connection, um, between all of us, whether it comes through movies or at the grocery store or a restaurant, wherever it might be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Luisa Novo. Did I pronounce your last name correctly? No,
The first time, no, now yes.
Novo.
Yes.
Luisa Novo. All right, Luisa, thank you so much for your patience with me. I really appreciate it. And it was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for
Yeah.
being on the show. And
Yeah. Pleasure to meet you too.
thank you. Until next time, everybody. Bye on Play It Forward.